to a new edition of our show, The View. And tonight we do have a totally new issue, and totally new in Egypt too. And we're just talking about, well, you know, intellectual property rights, or IPR and trademarks. But then, you know, we do have risk management, and this is what we're going to be talking about. I'm not going to take much time talking myself, because we do have the experts who are going to be expanding more on the subject. We have with us here Dr. Ihab Youssef, risk management and brand protection expert. Welcome, sir, to The View.
It's very nice to be with you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mrs. Dalia Youssef, vice president of also the same company.
Thank you.
Welcome with us here on The View. Well, we talk about risk management and all that, you know, like, and this is, you know, like a new concept here. You know, what is the concept of risk management? What does it entail? What does it signify?
Okay, thank you for giving us this opportunity to introduce to our dear guests here on the TV, to tell them what's about risk management and brand protection. Risk management is a new field that have been introduced abroad in the United States and England.
Yes.
It's about assessing risks and identifying where are your problems that might happen to you, setting the plans to be able to minimize the risks and its effect on the business. So you have to know where are the risks, what are the effects of these risks on your business if it occurs to be crystallized.
Yes.
And then you set the plans to minimize this effect if it happened. So if you take this generally in business, you find people need to make sure that their product lines are going to be setting properly, their supply chain is going to be setting properly, no interruption to the business, and by this they increase their profit or keep doing business as usual. And if you apply this to the government institutions, you minimize the risks, like the accident that happened recently in the two trains that entered together, or a fire that happened in the National Museum or the National Theatre or whatever.
Yes.
By putting things in consideration. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you, this is something, you know, like close, could we say this is like feasibility studies, or this is a totally different issue here?
Feasibility studies are also necessary for this. Security planning is necessary to do this. Security designing is necessary. And it's very important for new businesses or new compounds or new areas, actually. In Cairo, for instance, we're extending.
Yes.
So the new compound areas, it's important to also have risk assessment for them. You recall the incident of the Moroccan singer's daughter that was assassinated lately in one of our new compounds as well. These residential compounds also need risk assessment, especially that our Ministry of Interior cannot be handling everything on its own, and especially as we expand, it's difficult to handle this. So the private companies need to take a share.
Yeah. Well, you know, so what is the relationship between risk management and investment? How are they related?
Exactly. Building on Dalia's comment on this, if you look into 6th of October, the new governor there, I'm not sure if the prices of the properties are increasing or decreasing with the level of crimes that's happening.
Yes.
But what I'm sure of, if you assess the risks there and you minimize it to the maximum, and you make the investors feel that everything is under control, you have plans, you have security systems, you have security designs that make it difficult for thieves or for killers to do crime in this area, I'm sure that a lot of us might think into moving there, or at least the prices of properties will increase.
Yes.
So this is a very direct effect on the economy from this side. All it needs is good thinking, good planning. You know, it's if you think well, you can start figuring out what might happen, and then you set the plan not to do it. This is from a compound point of view. But if you talk about business itself, risk management is very important for businesses. Let's say if you have a company and this company is running, you have a top team that's running this company.
Yes.
You need to have successors for these guys. If anything happen, you find that your financial director is not there second day, we don't need to sit around and think who's going to be replacing him.
Yeah.
You need to have people ready to do this. If
Yes.
you have any interruption in your supply chain, you need to be ready. If the raw materials are not coming in time, then you have other plans that you can implement immediately, so you minimize your risk. The benefit is to continue business as usual for good, forever.
Yes.
And if any interruption is going to happen, you take it to the minimum size, minimum time. You don't keep the interruption, because if the interruption happen and you start thinking what you're going to do, then you're going to waste a lot of time. You need to be ready before then.
And lose money, of course.
Exactly.
Definitely. Well, it seems Egypt is in transition period, and we've got lots of ideas. We're just functioning in a way, and then we've got the polling center. That we're sound polling and new methods of polling. Like sound ones are just being applied and taught and all that. So this is new. Now with the risk management and to be risk-free of any problems in an enterprise, or how does this idea, or the concept, how did you think of that happening, and how is it applied in a country like the United States, for instance?
And you can look at the United States, and you can look to the Great Britain when they had the incident of the explosion that happened in the
subway.
Tunnel. The guys, they stopped their business. Yes, the tubes were stopped for 2 or 3 hours, and then they start working again.
Yes.
Just imagine this happening anywhere else without planning, without re-planning before things happen. It's going to take a huge time to start
to recover.
To recover, yeah. So the point is, in any civilized area, what we need to do is to be ready for what's going to happen. What if this happens? Then you have the scenario ready. You have the plan ready. You make rehearsals. You make the people aware of what's their role if this has happened, if this occurred to be crystallized, and then you're ready. If anything from what you planned for came into reality, you just open your drawer, you find the file, everybody is aware what his role is, then you start executing again.
But how did you just come into the market? Was it like an easy thing? In order to do that, you have to convince others, because they've been functioning for ages. But then you come with this concept, which is sound concept. But then this is new for the market. Then how was it received?
We've faced some difficulties, and I think we are still in the stage of campaigning and for raising awareness on our new scope of work. It's not a concept that's widely spread in Egypt, and I don't think it's widely spread in the Middle East either. So
here's your
it's
chance,
been quite challenging.
Can you think you're just going to a new territory, but then it's like fertile.
It's fertile,
yes.
But it's quite challenging.
Yes.
I recall the incident of the museum, the 9 portraits that were stolen. When this happened, all Egyptians were very upset. After all, this is our antiquity industry. So I recall that Ihab was on television and said, well, I'm ready to do a risk assessment for this museum or any other museum that the Egyptian Antiquity Department requires for free, because it's important that we risk assess these so this does not reoccur. No response. I think it's the awareness that how important is a risk assessment for any place. We're still in the stage of trying to convince people.
What we need to say here is, you can't work business as usual from the 50s till now.
Yes.
The crime level is increasing, the amount of people
Everything
are
is changing.
Everything is changing,
definitely.
So you have to
Yes.
change your mind. You
Yes.
have to know how to use electronics, how to use new methods in security technology, and risk management and planning.
How are we compared here in the Middle East and in Egypt to the West in being flexible and accepting new thoughts?
We're
Are we, or
we're difficult.
We're difficult. We're just a bit kind of...
Because there are two things. We as Egyptians, we're not used to this level of crime, so we're still not totally aware of what's happening, and we're not ready to start putting risks in our mind. This is one. The second, we usually depend on God in solving our problems. So say, inshallah, nothing will happen, everything will be okay.
Yeah, inshallah, nothing will happen, but we have to take our precautions.
Exactly. This is what we're trying to advertise now.
It's a mindset. I think it's a mindset. It's part of our culture, and I think we're not ready for. I think it's part of being pessimistic versus optimistic.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's. So I don't think we're ready for planning for the unknown.
Exactly.
But then, you know, if you have, for example, like in like a big show in like a jewelry, we do have, you know, expos and stuff like that, you know, would they say something like when they come, you know, from like India or, you know, Europe, whatever, and then they would say, God willing, you know, nothing will happen? Or how is that treated if something like that? Do they just, you know, like study the situation, and do they just have recourse to experts on that matter, or they just come and depend on the customary ways of doing things?
I think it's people don't till now that didn't change their way of thinking to things, but I think that in the very near future everything will start changing.
Mm-hmm.
If you look to the security setting, all and all, you need to do security planning. You need to have good guards to do the job.
Yes.
Because even the guards in Egypt are not trained. You know, they're not. There is no way of certifying people to be a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's job for jobless people to know.
We're talking about private guarding here.
Private guarding, yeah. And at the same time, the method of risk management is still very new in the people's mind. So what we're trying to do is to put this in people's eyes, to let them start seeing it, see that there is something new. They have to think about it, and we're trying to make the people feel, because we know that planning and all of this stuff, it costs. So.
Yes.
When we try to advertise our products, we try to advertise it in a way that people will feel the benefit out of us. If you're gonna spend money to do a security plan, if you're gonna start investing in your security guards, or if you're gonna use security devices or equipments, this would reflect back with benefit to your business. So you have to do it because it will affect you positively.
Yes.
But this is, as you know, this is part of our scope. The other part was brand protection, which is started to develop, because there is
okay, we'll talk about that, you know, because, you know, we
Yeah.
haven't developed, you know, like anything on this yet. You know,
Okay,
we never
yeah.
said, you like, we are discussing this in the show. So, you know, like, exactly, what are the different aspects? So let's say, you know, well, what does your enterprise deal with? The different scopes, you know, of work that you're dealing with.
The profiles, our
Yes, the
profiles.
profiles.
Well, risk management is one of our profiles. Brand protection, as Ihab was saying, is our second profile. And our third profile is security training. But we perform security, we conduct security training for security managers in the private sector. So this we do in coordination with a London academy. So these are the main three scopes that we found there are gaps in the Egyptian market, and we wanted to fill in.
Do you have any let's say, official partners in Egypt here?
Not yet.
Or
but
any
we're-
cooperation with the official?
we are in the process to propose an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, to the Customs Authority and to the Ministry of Interior. Customs Authority concerning the brand protection side, and the Ministry of Interior concerning the training side. Because as Delia was saying, we had an agreement with an academy in England
Yes.
that do provide security management training for the security managers. This is very useful for the people to work in that field.
Yes.
Because security is not as it used to be, just stepping on the door, asking people to show their access controls, to notify people not to go in or out. It have been a way of thinking, a way of management now. The security manager has to be a business partner, has to add value to the business, has to sit on the table adding value to the whole organization, or else he's not going to find himself fitting into this place. So this is what we need to do, and sorry, and this is what this academy is doing. We're not the people who provide the training. The training comes from England with his certificate from there, approved from an institution in England that approves security management training. All these steps that should be implemented in Egypt one day. I think if you look to the difference between UK and USA and in Egypt, you find that the security guard there should be trained, should have a certificate, and this certificate should come from a place that have been authorized to provide the certificate, not just any institution that opened to give certificates. So this is what we're trying to copy here in Egypt, by getting these guys from England to train the security managers here, and then we're going to provide certificates from an institution here in Egypt that should be created to make sure that everything is on the right track as needed.
But then, do you find resistance from some security companies that are there, and then providing like some guards, so they're not up to the level, the international level.
Well, there's actually no competition there at all. What we're trying to do is create, like I was saying, we're filling in the gaps. So what we're trying to do is create qualification.
Yes.
We're trying to have them qualified for what they're doing. Right now they're not qualified. So actually, if you think of us in that way, we're helping existing companies already that are working to qualify their security guards or security managers or what have you to do their job in a different mindset. As you know, most of our security managers in the private sector are former police officers or former military officers. That's a different environment totally, and it's a different, when you go into the private sector, it's a different requirement. What is needed of them is a totally different requirement. So what we do with this British Academy is actually change their mindsets completely, as Ihab was saying, into the fact that now you're not a military person, you're not going to do your job like you did in the police. What you are supposed to do now is add value to the business. By securing it, by doing your risk assessments, by trying to foresee the unknown and plan for it, your security designing, all of that. Your skills.
But how is the response to that? You're filling the gaps and you're doing the right thing, the right way.
We've had good response so far from the multinational
who have experience with that and who understand the value of this. But then what about the other companies? Because other companies are Egyptian companies.
We haven't gone into actually the what Ihab was saying a little while ago is that we wanted to also develop this training and Arabize it. Our training is in English. So what we want to do is Arabize it for the local guards and develop, we're going to develop custom one for the local guards. This we haven't done yet, but I'm assuming that once we're ready with that one in 2010, hopefully, that we would have a good outcome.
But then this, depends. You're creating a market, for like employees, like as guards. But then at the same time, you have to have, demand from some companies, or if you do have that training, then applicants would come outside those companies.
I'll tell you how it's going to work from my point of view, and when this training is there in the market and it's advertised to the end users.
Yes.
So when you're going to hire a security guard to stand on your door, you will ask him, are you trained or not? So by this will create the need. So when you know that there is a place that trains security guards up to a certain level, and then they take certificate, they have a card, they have a badge, they are under the supervision of this training center. You will ask your supplier to provide you from a trained guard, and then it will turn out to be that way. Because it's not acceptable by any means to have it's not 90%, it's 99.9 of the security guards are not trained. It's anybody that's walking in the street, you can pull him and just put him in a uniform and let him stand over the door.
Yeah.
And this is not proper. I mean, we can't leave. The Ministry of Interior, as Dalia was saying, cannot fulfill the requirements in 80 million people with this amount of land.
Yes.
But what they did, and this is a long time ago, they said, okay, we'll accept private security to work. And by that mean, they delegated part of their responsibilities to these security companies. So if these guys are not able to take the responsibility, then it's a big shame. I mean, to find people killed here or there, and people are stolen from here or there in their compounds where these security guards are covering these areas, and they're taking money for doing this service, then it's a shame. What we need to do is, as Dalia was saying, we need to put this in the right form. Okay, now the Ministry of Interior is taking care of things. They delegated security companies to do others.
Yes.
These guys should be trained. We are ready, and definitely there are a lot of companies that will come into the market and start training. Whoever is better will give the training, then it will be acceptable. People then will compete in raising up the bar.
Yes.
But now with this culminance that we are in, it's not working. We need to
So this is part of the challenges that
Exactly.
you're meeting, but what are the challenges that you're facing here, in this business to establish it and just, to for awareness, all that?
For our company.
Yes.
Yeah, the first challenge was creating the company itself, because when we went to the
Well, this is a new concept, for the
Yeah,
concept
exactly,
itself,
yeah.
I mean, for the trademark,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah,
chain, like we do
exactly.
have
When-
problems with that.
It took us a good few months actually to register our company. Just to
how did you convince the authorities,
This-
first
this-
of
that was
all?
difficult.
How did they accept that, like the whole,
Yeah, we
issue?
have in our commercial registration, thanks God now, two very complicated sentences. They were very complicated from their point of view at the very beginning: risk management and brand protection.
They wouldn't say
Because-
something like, why didn't you say feasibility studies?
Exactly, they said,
you say
okay,
that
why don't you
about the
say
first
security company? Okay,
yeah,
man,
they
It's
wanted
not
us to
security.
change it into security company,
Yeah.
but which we're not.
we're not security
So
company. We don't provide
so it
guarding.
took us a few months to convince them of that, but I think we.
But lucky enough, they
succeeded.
were convinced at the end, and now we have our company set up.
So now if
couple
anybody
months
wants just, to establish a company and compete with you, it will be very easy because you open the way.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, fortunately, that you'll be trading them, so.
Hopefully. Yeah, just to go back on this training for
Yes.
1 second. The difference between us and abroad and the Western world
Yes.
in security guarding especially is that for you to know that you have a trained team or task force, of course, for him to have a certificate, you're not, he's not, it's not with him all the time. He doesn't carry it around.
Yes.
But they have badges. This badge says that he's a skilled, qualified guard. And this is what we're planning to do, that all these security companies in the market now, for them to be qualified and for you to feel secure, you should look out for a badge that says he's qualified now, he's had his proper training, that he's not going to sit there and sleep because he's tired of his first job. So they usually have shifts, and they're long shifts, or he has a job and he takes on this job as an extra fee. But what it's going to create in the market, that might be a little of a competition that you were talking about, how people will accept that, is that now the qualified security guard will probably demand a different salary scale.
Definitely, because
Yeah.
this is a job. He's qualified for this job, only for this job. Then he deserves to be paid for it.
Exactly. It will be a different salary
Yeah.
scale in
Yeah.
this case.
But-
Yes.
and
Now, if
also-
the companies are ready to pay that or not is a different issue.
No, but this will happen, because you can't expect that your security guard is taking 150 Egyptian pounds a month, and he's counting on the bakshish that he's going to take from you or so.
Well, so I give him
Tips,
bakshish,
yeah.
I can just rob the place.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
That's the problem. Well,
At least you know who the thief is. It's easy to know.
well, that's really a bit complicated. But then also I've heard of some other like, I know that you're not a security company, but then security companies like for example one company in Switzerland the chairman is an ex-commando, and all the mostly the ones that are sought and the guards there are just commandos and soldiers. So the whole thing is turned to not only the secure transfer of money or jewelry and things like that, and extra things like sometimes chasing someone in a different country. Does that could that happen here?
I don't know.
I think it would not be acceptable.
I think there would be a little conflict here with their permissible role, what they're allowed to do and what they're not. I think for every country there are rules, laws and regulations, and I'm not sure if this will be, maybe with time. But right now this belongs to the Ministry of Interior, and I think they do a good job at it as well. I'm not sure we're ready with our, again, with our level of guards and commandos and whatever and soldiers. I'm not sure that we're ready for that right now.
But I think this this is part of it wouldn't be acceptable to go to any country and perform that. Their own job doesn't only stop at guarding or transfer of money or certain expos and jewelry or paintings, whatever, big things. It just goes beyond that, which might be.
I think what you're really talking about here is private investigators, which is allowed
do have
abroad
that
and
too.
is quite it's quite popular abroad.
But things develop. I mean, we as a country will develop. Yeah, I mean, people maybe have taken the steps before us, but we'll do it. I mean, one day we'll have private investigators in Egypt, and this is going to happen anyway. Yeah.
I'm sure.
But then with our rules, because it seems like some things are just sometimes we do have our rules which are different.
Yeah.
Well, just other collaborations with partners abroad. Do you have in the different, like the risk-free or risk management, or let's say like talking about trademarks, and do you have collaborators abroad? Except for Britain.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. With we work.
Are we allowed to say names or?
Well, I'll just mention the countries. Yeah, we do. We work with with a company in Italy on equipment. We work with the training academy from England. In England, we also work with 2 risk management companies. And when they have work on this side of the world, not just in Egypt, this also involves the Middle East or Libya or Sudan, we work for the region when it comes to investigations and risk managements and stuff like that. We work with 2 British companies in that, and in our brand protection scope, we work with multinational companies around the world, Switzerland and France and Italy and Cyprus and what have you, America and the US and a lot of companies.
Do you do anything like security counseling? Beside
yes, and we do provide this again. It might be called security counseling or risk assessment consultations, because let's say that there is an event that we're handling this moment. We're going to provide them with all the risk management plan and security design for it. It's going to happen in May. It's a big event that's happening in Egypt, and we're lucky enough to be responsible for setting the rules, and to make it easy for everybody to understand, we do put everything in papers. We say that if this happened, we're going to do this. If this happened, we're going to do this. This is what we're going to be doing from this day to that day, this moment.
Yes.
And then we start recruiting people to do this under our supervision to make sure that everything is happening on the right plan. And this is something that's still new in Egypt, and we're happy to do it. Yeah.
Well, on the other side, we're just talking about intellectual property rights, and we're talking about trademark. USAID was handling part of it, one of the projects, IPR, intellectual property rights and trademarks, and that also is kind of new somehow to the Egyptian market, and they're training judges and so on and so forth, and police people. What is your activities in this scope of work?
We are, I'm happy to say, the first legal company to work in brand protection.
Yes.
We provide brand protection services, and that's why these multinational companies that I was mentioning earlier, it didn't take us much time for them to demand our services, so we were lucky enough for that. Our brand protection service is also quite challenging in Egypt because there is not much awareness still. It's developing.
Yes.
People are starting to be aware that there is a huge counterfeited market in the world now, but it's taking us time to build awareness on it. And we just started our business and our services in February of this year. So in the summer we decided to do a conference to raise awareness as well, and that helped us. We did that with the US Embassy and under the auspices of the Minister Rashid. And the Ministry of Industry is playing a huge role in this, in IPR and in brand protection and in raising awareness. And in the US Embassy there's a new office now, the US Immigration and Customs Department Enforcement, and they're playing a huge role as well. It's a dangerous market, and we are very happy to be working in it.
Well, time is up. Unfortunately, we had more on the counterfeit issue. That was very interesting. But then, we ran out of time. Maybe in other encounters, we'll be just discussing fully more issues. So
we're very grateful to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and you honored us with your company here. So. Thank you. So Dr. Ihab Yusuf, risk management and brand protection expert, thank you for being here with us.
It's a great honor for us.
And Mrs. Dalia Yusuf, Vice President of the company. Thank you very much for being here with us on The View.
Thank you for hosting us.
As for our viewers, thank you for being there. We'll see you next week. As for now, it's good luck and goodbye.